Hello and welcome to Unleash Data Cloud and AI Craft Your Salesforce Future. My name is Francis Pinder and I actually did this talk in June 2024 at the Salesforce World Tour because I kind of saw the power of data cloud and AI, and I really want people to kind of understand it a little bit better and understand the learning paths for how you actually really get a good understanding of it. And some of the diagrams that I use to get certified in data cloud that kind of really help me as well. Now, first off, we had the forward-looking statement, which obviously is around Salesforce being a publicly traded company, and customers should base their purchasing decisions on the products and services that are currently available rather than what I'm going to talk to you about now. Although I don't work for Salesforce, so I really have no insight whatsoever. So all good. Okay, moving on. So my name is Francis Pinder and I've trained over 170,000 people in 160 countries in Salesforce. I'm also a Salesforce coach. I'm a co-founder of the London's Calling, which is one of the largest Salesforce community events in the world now, which happens every year. You can watch it online or come in person. Do check out the website londonscalling.net because it is just a hive of Salesforce experts from all over the industry talking and going in depth with Salesforce, which I kind of love. But first, before we start, I want to wind back the clock to 1945. Now, in 1945, the lift operator was a thing. Yes, you had people in elevators or lifts that would operate the lift and take you to different floors within the lift. And I find this kind of really fascinating. And actually, in 1920s, there actually was 17,000 lift operators that were within the Elevator Operators Union in the United States. Yes, it was a thing. But in 1945, they saw the emergence of these automated lifts, and they were like, oh, what is going to happen? What is going to, how is this going to affect my world as a lift operator? And so they went on strike. And this is a article from a newspaper of the day, which I think is amazing. So New York hit by huge elevator operator strike. And then the article, it said thousands struggled up stairwells that seemed endless, including those of the Empire State Building, the tallest structure in the world. And I find this is kind of where we are with AI. Maybe not on the whole you're losing your job thing, because I don't think AI is going to do as much as people think it's going to do in that side of things. But we're just kind of elevating us up to being a lot more efficient in the way we do things. A kind of another evolution of automation, essentially. So you may think, okay, good riddance to these lift operators or elevator operators. But the worries back then are similar to the worries we have today with driverless cars and things like that. Although I think it's different, where I don't think it's less of a kind of you're losing your job type thing. I think it's more of we're just automating and improving the way we do things and streamlining it so we can all kind of rise to another level of being smart at doing other things, right? Rather than tilling and manually doing working on the fields. We've got tractors and things like that can help us. But it's just you now start driving a tractor, right? So I think it's going to be like that for AI. But actually, the technology for elevators actually existed back in 1900, but people were just uncomfortable with going in a lift without an operator. And it really took the strike in 1945 to change people's perceptions of that. And there was a big PR push from the kind of industries to kind of change people's minds. And this really was the kind of nail in the coffin for this kind of industry. So it's kind of like a cycle of automation, the fear and eventual acceptance, and then kind of taking it on and working with it. So I think this is where we are right now with AI. We saw oh my word, this can be amazing. Oh my word, this could be disastrous. Or scared of it. But actually now we're kind of hopefully coming out a bit out of there and understanding how it will work with our organizations. So it will be remiss of me to kind of give this a call out. So for decades, the guiding light of AI that we've kind of hit that maturity has been the Alan Turing test, which is the Turing test. Now, he created this before even computers existed. He was the founder of computing, really, and he kind of came up with this test. And the Turing test really kind of assesses a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior, I suppose, that is indistinguishable against humans. And this was kind of that crucial test for AI development as a benchmark to say, yeah, we've got there. We have these kind of the machine's capability of creating these human-like interactions. And Stanford did research back in February, or reported on February, and actually found that ChatGPT has kind of hit this and actually gone beyond the Turing test now. But I would caveat this in essentially Turing came up with this before computing even existed, right? And the Turing test in some ways has been discredited because among other things, it can mimic human conversation, but it doesn't really demonstrate the underlying understanding and intelligence. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a really important milestone for AI that we've got there. Although, yeah, I think there's more to come on this, but it's really important. And so for me, my milestones in AI are really kind of like 3 core milestones. And this is kind of my value trend, I suppose. And the first phase is that kind of generic productivity using public models and data. So this is kind of our ChatGPTs, all these kind of tools that are using these generative models, public models. And, we use these today. We're through this, phase 1. It's call summarization, writing, code, although not brilliantly, and you're tweaking and changing it, right? But it's making you more efficient. Brainstorming, chatbots, product descriptions, image generation, all this kind of stuff. We kind of take it for granted. Well, I do now, a lot of it in the way I work day in, day out. And some of the tools I use literally daily are Otter AI. I literally can't survive without it. All my calls are transcribed, all the actions are captured. I can ask any of my of all the calls I'm in, because I'm constantly on calls. I can, did so and so ask this? What was the answer to this? And just ask it questions, and it'll pull back the answers based on all that transcripts of all my calls. Grammarly, again, I use for emails, creating emails and replies. ChatGPT, obviously. Also Claude 3, check that out. Another kind of generative GPT, which we go, and also Midjourney, again, for doing image generation and stuff like this. And I found it really helpful with using these tools when I've just completed a course, Principles of Salesforce SaaS Data Protection. So I basically created the structure of the course. I created the scripts for the course. I fed the scripts into ChatGPT to say, hey, look, make this more engaging, make this, and I kind of asked it questions to kind of improve that script. And then it came out with some really cool ideas, which I then fed back into the course to make it a lot more engaging and interesting. And if you want to check it out, head to that link. It's currently free. So if you want to learn more about data protection, SaaS, the legal ramifications and consequences for not having your security and data protection there in Salesforce, then definitely check it out. So I kind of think phase 1, tick. We've kind of done that, right? And now we're on to phase 2. We're into this. Well, we've got these public domain models, but actually I want to combine that with my organizational data. I want to be able to create sales proposals, RFP responses based on the information, the public models, and how to best reply to that based on this, say, RFP coming in, but also my company's data on how we would reply to an RFP based on our expertise, our models of doing things, and so it kind of really can help based on our kind of internal company data. And this is where I think Data Cloud comes in, right? Because we've started off with these public models. We're now moving into this phase 2 of combining our private organizational data with these public models to really start getting really interesting results from AI. And then finally, the third approach is actually using specific industry models combined with our private data and the generic models as well, so we can really focus in and get some amazing results. So, for example, drug discovery. So say the NHS, based on all their data, have created a industry model that can be used by the drug organisations, obviously with loads of anonymised data and stuff in there, but it's enough to kind of pull and find interesting links to stuff. And drug discovery can then use that model that created by the NHS to do drug discovery based on their own private data and their own information that they have, and results from their kind of discovery projects and stuff like that, as well as public models, generic public models as well. And so now you kind of start getting really kind of interesting things out of that. But yeah, it's now you're combining all these three together of public models with private data and the specific models as well, which I think is where we're going, right? Okay, so what is Data Cloud? Now, I think of it as this kind of hyper-scaled data platform on the core Salesforce platform. So organizations can connect, harmonize their data, create these kind of unified profiles of prospects and customers to kind of start building insights. Then they can start segmenting those prospects and those customers to really start creating activations and kind of real meaningful relationships and experiences. So it starts off in this most simple form as your data sources. Now, if you're looking at getting Data Cloud, the first thing is, where are your data sources? Where are they? What's in them? And really kind of understanding that data and what it means to you to have it and what results you could get out and actionable insight you could get out of it. So based on those data sources, kind of really understanding them and kind of going, okay, why would we want to put this into Data Cloud and what result are we going to get out of it? And then we kind of start going on to this connect piece of going, okay, we understand those data sources and what's in them. Okay, we want to connect them into Data Cloud, but there's a whole different range of ways you could connect them into Data Cloud. It could be batch processing once a day, the data coming in. It could be streaming data coming in. It could be the zero copy data. So it lives in Snowflake, and therefore you could do a zero copy integration where Data Cloud doesn't store the data per se in Salesforce. It's just basically calling out to Snowflake to get the data when it needs it in a very simplistic way. So then we have harmonize. So harmonize is really based on all those different data sources. For each of them, creating, restructuring it essentially to harmonize the data better in Data Cloud. So you can really kind of get the data in a similar structure so you can really start unifying these profiles together. And harmonize, you kind of have to make some decisions here, because if you're connecting and bringing all this data, now Salesforce is a consumption-based model. So Data Cloud is a consumption-based model. So the more data you bring in, the more it costs, the more you harmonize and kind of transform that data, then the more it costs based on the Data Cloud credits. So you need to start going, well, do we need all this data in Data Cloud? Actually, no, we only kind of want this one use case because this is the action we want to get out at the end of it. So let's focus on just this set of data so we can limit, kind of make it get a better ROI on using Data Cloud. Then on harmonizing, well, do we harmonize it in Data Cloud, or are there come little tweaks we can make to the original data sources to kind of harmonize it for us before it gets into Data Cloud, which might be easier than doing it in Data Cloud in the first place. And I think this is where it's different. Data Cloud is different, where it is another level of tech knowledge you kind of need to do this, and you need to really plan and design this well before you go anywhere near Salesforce, okay? Or Data Cloud, sorry, because it's less forgiving, I think, than the core platform in some ways. So if you do make a mistake, there's more stuff to undo and redo than it would be if you're kind of in the core platform. And then we go into unify. So we've got all these, the data sources coming in. We've kind of harmonized the data into the same structure. And now we're unifying that data into a customer profile. So we can, so say if you're bringing marketing data, service data, product usage data, all into this now one unified profile. And this could be on like terabytes of data coming in that's being unified. So we're doing this at massive scale. Okay. And then we have the analyzing and predicting. So based on those profiles, we might then be able to predict what's going to happen next and then have some action off the back of that. Or we're just analyzing it and understanding, oh, actually, now these profiles are all connected. We're getting kind of more insight about their behaviors and how different segments of customers or prospects interact, and therefore we can kind of create action after that. So is act, obviously the last step. So we've done all this and now we know, right, we need to act on this data, act on this kind of scenario, and it might be an email going, a very targeted email. It might be creating a task for an AE to kind of contact these customers. Now, let's boil this down and make this a bit easier based on a scenario. So I had a chat with Ian Gotts, and Ian Gotts is CEO of Elements Cloud, and he's been kind of using Data Cloud and AI quite in an interesting way. And I think it's a common use case that a lot of people are going to have. They obviously have Salesforce, so they do all their sales and a lot of kind of functionality within that. They have a support system, which isn't the Salesforce Service Cloud, but it's another platform that provides live chat capabilities and other kind of support functionality. They have their Academy platform, their training site, so customers can come in and learn different features and functionality within that Academy site. And then we have product usage. So how customers are using their product or the Elements Cloud product. And then finally, they've got their marketing platform. And what they're using Data Cloud for is to bring all these disparate platforms together in Data Cloud, but then kind of going, right, what kind of actionable insight can we get based on all this information? So one of the examples could be that you've sent a webinar out to this particular customer. They've seen that webinar. They know that webinar is all about this new feature. They've gone on to the Academy and actually learned it in depth, this feature. But from the product usage data, they're not using it. So they've had all the marketing, they've been on the Academy and done the training, yet they're not using it. Now, does this mean it's a targeted email to kind of show them the value proposition of it in a more reinforced way of this feature? Or is it actually let's contact the customer because they're not using it, which we would expect most customers to use it, and find out a bit more. It might be the product feature isn't quite aligned to what they want to do, or it might be just they haven't had time to use it. But they can start then having more highly targeted email correspondence and conversations than here's a new feature every month, and here's another new feature email every month. And so it can be a lot more targeted. And I think this is common for anybody who offers a service on the internet, or even products as well, product purchasing. So if you want to hear more about Ian's session, then I did record it for the Salesforce Posse podcast, where I talk to industry influencers so we can learn more about going from a Salesforce admin and developer to an architect. And so Ian Gott's session, we do a deep dive into how they're using Data Cloud and also the challenges and how we go about learning Data Cloud. So check that out. Just find Salesforce Posse in your podcast player and you'll be able to get it out. It's about to release in the next couple of weeks, but hopefully if you're watching this video, it's already released, so you can check it out now. Also, for some reason, Spotify rated it this podcast the top 10 most viewed podcast on Spotify and the top 15% most followed podcast on Spotify. So do check it out. Okay, so if you're learning Data Cloud, this diagram really helped me understanding Data Cloud. It's really kind of giving you that picture of how data is ingested. So if we look right on the kind of far side, left-hand side, you can see the data streams. So we can see this ingestion of data into Salesforce. And it could be that it's unstructured data or structured data coming in. This could be, and you can see on the timings, real-time data coming in through streaming or SDK kind of interactions. It could be a batch loading of data and various kind of forms. And then we have these kind of data lake objects and data model objects, so DLOs and DMOs. And this is all part of that kind of harmonization part of data cloud, getting the structure in the right way. So the data comes in one way, then we harmonize it into our object model, and then from that we can unify those profiles, get the insights out of it, and take action from it. And that then the action can be fired off back into the Salesforce org. It could be Marketing Cloud. It could be really kind of anything you like, based on all this data that's come in, either other Salesforce orgs, Marketing Cloud, anything, any pretty much system, Snowflake as well. And they've got loads of different connectors for ingesting data, and even more if you've got MuleSoft as well, which I think is great. But this is another view of data cloud, and this is the technical capability you can get off the Salesforce Architect website. And this really kind of gives a picture of actually it's all built on AWS, okay, the whole platform, a data cloud platform. And actually they've learned a lot from the CDP kind of precursor to data cloud, so the customer data platform that was, before data cloud. And it actually is structured really well. You can see those data cloud objects in Salesforce, the core platform as well, so you can kind of expose data and stuff in there quite easily. Obviously, there's some limitations around security and stuff like that because it's just kind of modeled differently. But you can see here, there's loads of AWS technology underneath. And this is how they can actually have 100 billion transactions happening every single day. And it kind of just automatically scales. But I'm an AWS architect, and managing all these services is just crazy, right? So I do love the way that actually Salesforce has abstracted all those servers away from us and just kind of gone, okay, it's just going to cost you data cloud credits and for usage based on certain areas of the platform. So now let's get into the 5-step plan for crafting your data and AI journey, because I think this is really important. I think the first thing is getting that core understanding of data cloud and AI. And so I would say explore the data cloud trail on Trailhead. It is pretty good. I use that to get my data cloud consultant certification, but also I went on the Salesforce training, which actually is a really good 3-day course. And also I kind of used Ines Garcia's Udemy course, which was really good as well, because Ines's course really goes feature by feature, real detail, everything through data cloud. And then the data cloud course for Salesforce kind of gave more of a holistic view and the value prop for it and things like that. And also you had somebody on the call that was like a guru of data cloud. You can just ask them any questions and they'd just have an answer for it, which was really good. And also I think what's valuable is kind of getting your AI associate, kind of really understanding AI from the point of the Salesforce platform, and also kind of more holistically on why it's going to add value to you. And I think also one of the core things that's missing here is, that I think is important for learning data cloud, is understanding kind of more about Salesforce architecture. So data flow diagrams, ERDs, entity relationship diagrams, and really kind of how you understand that data, because knowing how to design and diagram these flows of data coming in, you can do that planning up front, right? Which is really important for data cloud. You need to do design and planning. Otherwise, it will go boop, right? Because of this consumption-based model, so you can kind of get that ROI. So next up is planning and designing. Now, if there's one thing you need to remember, it's this: 80% planning and design, 20% implementation. The most important thing is doing that planning and design up front, because you want to have planned and designed it to really know what your ROI is going to be for using data cloud. You don't want to ingest all this data and unify it and have your credit costs being quite high and realize that actually the ROI you're going to get out of it is not a lot. So really understand what is the requirement, what is that end-to-end process, what is the action you're going to have to add value based on the data coming in and the transformation that you're having within data cloud. And yeah, DMLs and DLOs, get it wrong, you're starting again, right? So this is where planning and design is really important. And also don't forget you're hitting multiple systems and cross-functional teams because this data is coming in. If they make changes, it's going to affect data cloud. And also the fact that, you may need to have them on planned time to work on this as well if you want transformations happening in the source systems a little bit, because it just works out more sensible and easier to do it there than in data cloud. Okay, next up, we have understanding data quality. Really super important, because if it's rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out, right? So really understanding and profiling the current state of your data so you really understand it, because one field called industry in one system could be very different to an industry field in another system. So really kind of understanding the kind of ERD data as well, or the field metadata, I suppose, of those source systems, as well as the data that's being populated in them as well. And then coming up with this standardized common data lexicon, so that because these different systems could have the same meaning for different fields with different naming, right? But you're going to harmonize those into a single data model essentially in data cloud. So you need to understand that this field means the same as this field. We just need to tweak it and call it something maybe completely different when it gets into data cloud as a kind of a unifying approach. So this common lexicon can be, data dictionary for the organization is kind of really important. And can you achieve the goals based on the current data quality? If the data in there isn't good enough or isn't filled out in the way you thought, then you might not be able to get that actionable insight that you thought at the end. And then the next one I would say is create a narrow POC. Be really specific on your business objective. Okay, so for example, in the Elements Cloud example, just do it based on one feature initially. You're only ingesting who's used that one feature into data cloud, not all the data from the data usage database, which could be massive, right? And just prove it out, test your insight, and use the kind of this POC as a way of learning, right? And using your free credits to learn and do this specific use case. Limited data scope, as I just said, don't bring it all in. Also, small and targeted group. This could be just targeting your highest value customers, or it might be targeting internal stakeholders, a product owner and a small team, so that you can see what their problem, what you could gain from a certain action off their data, and then target that and then do that as a scenario, right? So that you can really understand targeted customers or prospects and targeted stakeholders, so it doesn't kind of go too crazy and you have too many kind of cooks trying to boil the ocean, I suppose. And then consult experts, which actually I should have changed this, right? It's not really consulting experts. It's being collaborative, learning from each other. This is new technology. AI is new, right? Understanding from each other and learning from each other, I think, is super, super important. So the Trailblazer community, I run the architect community group in London, and there's loads of other developer community groups and admin user groups and marketing user groups and community groups all over the world, right? These are just the London ones. So I would definitely reach out to your local community and learn from them and ask them, hey, anybody using Data Cloud? Because different regions have different kind of challenges as well. US don't really care about currencies, right? Generally, and things like that. So, it can have different perspectives. Also, London's Calling, I was on the 19th of July. I did mention this at the beginning of the presentation. But this is 19th of July 2024, if you're watching this. But we do it every single year. And it's a great way to kind of learn from each other in one place. We have like 7-8 tracks of talks for admin, architect and development. And it is a really fun day. You get a free t-shirt as well, which can't be bad for coming along. And also, if you can't get to London, we do stream it all online as well. So you can sign up for a online ticket as well. And all that money proceeds goes to charity. And finally, if you do want to learn more about Data Cloud, AI, then sign up for my scorecard that measures you against successful architects. So we kind of, if you do this scorecard, you'll get a better understanding of how you measure up against kind of the successful Salesforce architects around customer understanding business, creating a architectural blueprint and design and process, constructing, that's the kind of the technical knowledge of being a Salesforce architect, convincing, so knowing the different levels of stakeholders and how you communicate effectively to them. And finally, capturing your corner of Salesforce. Because I think that actually now Salesforce has matured up. We're now going to start getting people, rather than being generalists on the platform, being the ones that are, I'm just data cloud, but even I'm just data cloud in this one industry, right? And that is where you need to become a kind of a guru in. And once you become a guru in that kind of niche, I suppose, then everybody's going to come to you that is in that industry that wants data cloud, because they understand you being the guru of that certain kind of area. So really kind of capturing your corner of Salesforce, I think, is important as well. So head on to score.admin2architect.com to find out more, or scan the QR code. And yeah, I'd love to have a chat with you in the future. So that is it. Hope you enjoyed the talk. If you do have any questions, be sure to give me a shout, connect to me on LinkedIn, or take a look at the video on the screen where you'll kind of learn more about Salesforce.